Hello and welcome to a special episode of Stories from the Toy Shelf Unscripted. How special? Well, so special that I broke out my old light box for a more professional look. So in this episode, I'll basically be doing what every single YouTube toy content creator does, which is list down their top toys, their favorite purchases from the previous year. And in case you're wondering, no, Cami from Jada Toys is not in my top 10 list, although she does have the distinction of being the last toy that I bought for 2024. So here she is to start off my list. So without further ado, let's get going. Okay, so starting off my list at number 10 is a character that might come as a bit of a surprise, but you know what? You like what you like. So for me, number 10 on my list is G.I.Joe Classified Raptor. Raptor? Yeah, I get it. For a lot of Joe fans, Raptor is probably one of the weirdest or dumbest character ideas for Cobra, but I've always had a soft spot for this Birdman. The original figure was like really weird, but I really liked it. And I was really bummed that I missed out on an opportunity to get the modern 25th anniversary version. He was made available in the G.I. Joe Collectors Club, but I missed my chance for that one. And so when Hasbro announced that they would be making a classified Raptor, I jumped at it. Yes, this is a very modern take on Raptor, making him a more formidable enemy. He's got some futuristic wings similar to those of the MCU Vulture, but I like it, although it would have been nice if they included a classic, cloak cape like the original figure, but I figure they're saving that for the retro version. And in any case, at least he looks like someone you wouldn't really want to tangle with. So yeah, starting off my list at number 10, G.I. Joe Classified Raptor. So coming in at number 9 is another surprise entry, something I wasn't really planning on getting, but here he is. Masters of the Universe Origins Cartoon Collection, Cringer. So aside from G.I. Joe and Transformers, I'm a huge Masters of the Universe fan. I didn't really go in on any of the recent lines like Masterverse or Origins, basically because I went all in on classics, Masters of the Universe classics. I've got a pretty much not complete collection, but it's pretty extensive, so much so that I didn't feel the need to get anything else. But when this guy showed up, so as part of the classics line, towards the end, they did a sub collection of Club Grayskull, which was basically Filmation based figures. And Cringer, although he was released in the classics line, he was released in a more classic look that didn't really fit in with the Filmation. So this guy is basically how I guess many people envision Cringer, because for all intents and purposes, Cringer was a Filmation character. I think he was invented for the cartoon, and so it only makes sense. So this guy is part of the Origins cartoon collection, and he fits perfectly with my Club Grayskull display, so I got him. And as a figure himself, he's really well done. As you can see, he's very articulated. He comes with two very well sculpted and expressive faces. The one on him now even has an articulated jaw. So what else could you want? So once again, even if I don't collect the Origins line, this guy fits in perfectly with what I already have. So he makes it to my top 10 for 2024. Origins Cartoon Collection, Cringer. Okay, number 8, the first Transformer on my list, and that would be Transformers Studio Series 86, Springer. So somewhere about a couple years back, Hasbro started their new subline of Studio Series, which focused on the characters from the 1986 movie. And prior to that, they had already released a Siege version of Springer, which was sort of like a more dinged up version of Springer. It was really nice for what it was, but the whole aesthetic of the Siege line was all battle damage and stuff like that. So much so that when the brighter, cleaner look of the Studio Series 86 Transformers came in, as good as a toy as Siege Springer was, he kind of stood out. One, he was because of his darker, dirtier, grimmer look. So what does Hasbro do? They announced Studio 86 Springer, and this guy is a pretty polarizing character in the sense that he is a major remold of the Siege Springer, released on a higher price point as a leader. The previous Springer, I believe, was a Voyager class. So I don't know, it kind of ticked off some collectors, but I thought he was pretty good. I took a chance on him and I was pleasantly surprised. I can't stress how major of an improvement this is. I mean, he is more accurate to the cartoon version of Springer, brighter colors, the shoulders are re-engineered. There's a lot of re-engineering here. He's just basically a more polished version of Siege, literally and figuratively. I mean, no more battle damage, no more nothing, and he's got a better head sculpt. He comes with a lot of extra accessories which kind of feel thrown in just to sort of justify the whole leader price point, but I don't care. It's a great figure. And even if I was a fan of the Siege Springer, again, aesthetically, I felt he didn't fit, and he was still kind of fiddly. So this is a definite improvement, even in the engineering. It's a lot smoother, and I just thought I was crossing out a box, but I was pleasantly surprised with this guy. So coming in at number 8, Studio Series 86, Springer. Number 7. The figure that pretty much pushed me down a major classified rabbit hole in 2024. G.I. Joe Classified Airborne. So in case you don't know, I know it's a weird choice, but ever since I was a kid, Airborne has been my favorite Joe ever. Like, I know it's weird, he's a pretty obscure character. He was barely used in the cartoons and the comics, but ever since I saw his card art at the back of whatever action figure I bought, it was love at first sight. I've always loved Airborne. So much so that he has been the figure zero that started off me falling into not one, but two G.I. Joe collecting rabbit holes. So way back in the early 2000s when I was basically a Transformers collector and the 25th anniversary of G.I. Joe was just starting, I was going back and forth. I was still a new toy collector and I wasn't sure if I wanted to get back into Joe's. I figured, well, if they do release an Airborne in the 25th anniversary, I would get it since he's my favorite. And lo and behold, I literally Googled 25th anniversary Airborne and there he was. So the next opportunity I got myself a 25th anniversary Airborne and that was the end. And hundreds of figures later, I was all in on the 25th anniversary and everything else that followed after that. Same old story with this guy. Classified came in and I told myself I couldn't justify getting into another G.I. Joe collection since I had such an extensive 25th anniversary. And Hasbro once again gave us a Classified Airborne and I told myself, just one. You know, he's my favorite. Just this one figure, knowing full well how this would all end up. So what can I say? I'm weak. So anyway, Classified Airborne, the guy who started me down yet another G.I. Joe rabbit hole in 2024. And even if I've gotten pretty much all the figures that I've wanted up to this point, this guy still remains special to me. The character. And I do think it's a really great, version of him that they made for Classified. And yes, I know I'm probably biased, but what can I say? Nostalgia plays a big part in, this whole selection process. So with that, we have number 7, Classified Airborne. Okay, so number 6 is sort of like a special 2-for-1. You'll see why. And so we'll start off with this one. Super 7's Ultimates G.I. Joe Scarlet. This was one of my most anticipated figures of 2024 for the simple reason that Scarlet, specifically Scarlet from the cartoon, was part of my ultimate triumvirate of childhood crushes. So it was Scarlet, the Filmation Tila, and Chitara. So I already had the previous two in the previous years, so getting this cartoon version of Scarlet would complete that trio. But anyway, aside from that, before I went all in on G.I. Joe Classified, I was basically in on the G.I. Joe Ultimates line because I justified that as it's the cartoon aesthetic and it's completely different from the 25th anniversary. And the release schedule of Super 7 is like super duper slow, so I could kind of justify it in terms of expenses. But anyway, yeah, I got Scarlet, and yes, I'm biased. She is almost completely accurate to the cartoon, like she just stepped out of the screen. Although she does have all your typical shortcomings of Super 7 Ultimates figures, which is very limited articulation. But you know what? It's a display piece, so I'll let that pass. But on the display, especially this Scarlet specifically, I don't know, she just strikes me as a little bit too angry. I mean, they usually give us a lot of alternate heads, and they did give her some other alternate heads, but they could have given us a more pleasant looking face, like a smiley face. I don't know. And she does seem a bit tall compared to like putting her next to Duke or Snake Eyes, if that's your preference. She just feels a little bit tall. But other than that, I mean, she is a great looking figure. And once again, she completes my triumvirate. Now, that being said, halfway through the year, I finally caved and got myself into the G.I. Joe Classified line. And a big reason for that is because they gave us a Classified Scarlet. Now, this isn't the very first Scarlet that they released in Classified. She was actually released in the first wave. But that first wave was, they weren't going for a complete classic look. They wanted a more futuristic, modern look. And so, although while I find that Scarlet to be pretty cool in herself, again, I wasn't really into the whole futuristic looking G.I. Joe theme. So once they gave us this retro version, which is basically a blown up version of the classical toy, it made falling into that G.I. Joe Classified hole a lot easier. And so while I was only expecting one fantastic Scarlet figure for the year, I ended up with two. And as much as I love subjectively the Super 7 Scarlet, objectively, the Classified version of Scarlet, I would have to say, blows the Super 7 version away. But again, as far as I'm concerned, two Scarlets are better than one. So at number 6, we have Scarlet, both the Ultimates and the retro version. And my heart is full. And so in at number 5 is another highly anticipated release for 2024, and that would be Studio Series 86 Swoop. So if you're a Chug collector like me, Transformers Chug collector, having a properly sized Dinobot set has been one major frustration. I mean, the Power of the Primes one that combined into Volcanicus just didn't cut it, and Hasbro basically got our hopes way up when they finally released a leader version of Grimlock that came out probably around 3 years ago. And since then, it's been a slow burn, but they consistently gave us the rest of the Dinobots. We got Slag, and then Sludge, and then Snarl in the next following years. And finally, in 2024, they gave us Swoop to complete the team. So as far as Dinobots go, Swoop isn't my favorite. I know he's pretty popular with a lot of people, but if you ask me, my favorite goes to Snarl and Slag. But anyway, that's beside the point. In terms of significance, the fact that we finally get a complete, properly sized Dinobot team in 2024, thanks to this guy coming in, is a major significant event for my collection and for all of our collections. So that in itself basically boosts Swoop right to the middle of my favorite toys of 2024. And so there you have it. In at number 5, Studio Series 86, Leader Class, Swoop. All right, in at number 4 is yet another Studio Series 86 Transformer, and that would be Transformers Studio Series Optimus Prime. And so, yeah, to be honest, when this was first announced, I kind of hesitated on getting him, basically because I was pretty happy with my current Chug Prime, which was the Earthrise Prime. And truth be told, when I first saw this guy in static poses, he kind of looked a bit too chunky for my taste. But that being said, even I couldn't deny that this is a very, very well done, probably the best modern retail version of Prime ever done. I hesitated though, and I missed out on the Amazon pre-order. It was sold out. Fortunately, this guy took us by surprise here in Manila when he was released as part of a special Transformers 40th anniversary event from one of our bigger toy stores. And so yeah, I didn't think twice. I was there on day one of the event, right in the morning, right before the mall opened. My wife, my awesome wife, was nice enough to come with me. And once the gates opened, we rushed to the special display and I got my Studio Series Optimus Prime. No drama. Plus, I got a 40th anniversary coin with it too. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, back to the toy. So, like I said, he's not perfect, but as far as modern retail versions of Prime goes, it's pretty evident and Hasbro spared no expense on this guy. He does come with a fully equipped trailer, which is like, icing on the cake. And they didn't even cheap out on that one, not like the Earthrise version, which was like really a waste of plastic in my opinion. But anyway, yeah, fully equipped trailer aside, this is a very well done toy. So good that even if I do decide to keep my Earthrise Prime, this guy is so good that he can stand alone as a one-off, display piece. Well, actually, if the rumors are true, okay, maybe they're not rumors. When the Studio Series 86 Megatron comes out, the two of them would make a great standalone display. So until that comes out, Studio Series 86 Prime will just chill in my collection and have the esteemed honor of being the 4th favorite toy that I got in 2024. Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime. So in at number 3 is a big one, the biggest one in this list, and that would be Fans Toys Inquisitor, or in layman's terms, Masterpiece Scourge. So if you don't know, my favorite Decepticon or Transformer is Thundercracker, simply because he was the very first toy that I got as a kid. And if you also didn't know, in the Transformers 86 movie, Thundercracker unfortunately died, but was reformatted and rebuilt into this guy, Scourge. So by the process of transference, because I love Thundercracker so much, I've always had this soft spot for Scourge as well, the tracker. So aside from Chug, I'm a major Masterpiece Transformers collector, and at this point, there aren't that many Masterpiece Transformers coming out, at least based on G1 characters. So there weren't much, but I did manage to get a few, but most of them were basically like boxes that I needed to check off. But this guy, Scourge, he was a major guy, major player. Like I said, I have a soft spot for him. And while I did have a previous Scourge in my collection, I believe his name was Andras from X-Transbots, he was okay, but he looked pretty mediocre standing next to Fans Toys Quietus and Sovereign, which was their Galvatron and Cyclonus. And so when Fans Toys finally announced this guy, it was only a matter of time before Andras would be shown the door. Actually, I'm still trying to sell him. So if you know anyone who wants to buy an X-Transbots Andras, please do let me know. But in any case, so yeah, Inquisitor by Fans Toys is, for me, the perfect Masterpiece version of Scourge. Aside from the excellent finish, the paint, which is par for the course for Fans Toys, he just looks so beautiful. I mean, his finish, it's really nice. he actually is engineered pretty well. Like, I find his transformation into his space surfboard really enjoyable as compared to Andros. Andros is okay, but he's got this really awful foot engineering, which is just so headache-inducing. So this guy, from start to finish, has just got an excellent and fun, dare I say, transformation. So yeah, not many masterpiece Transformers on my list, but this is a big one. And he completes my Transformers 86 triumvirate of Galvatron, Cyclonus, and Scourge. So number 3, masterpiece Scourge. Okay, so we're almost done. In at number 2 is a 2 for 1. Yeah, I know it's kind of cheating, but my list, my rules, and once you see what these two guys are, you'll figure out why it makes sense. At least I think so. And that would be Masters of the Universe Origins He-Man, and what is this guy? A reissue of the O-Ring Duke figure. So why these two? Again, you probably think I'm lying at this point, but no, I do not collect Masters of the Universe Origins figures, and I do not collect O-Ring figures, at least vintage ones. But I made an exception for these two for the simple fact of, well, like I said, like most kids of the 80s, my 3 pillars of cartoon and toy childhood goodness were basically He-Man, Transformers, and G.I. Joe. And so I got these guys because, well, basically, it seems to be like a common theme with a lot of the toy companies nowadays. They're re-releasing vintage toys with added articulation. So no one did it better, in my opinion, than Mattel with their Masters of Universe Origins lines. So I made an exception for this guy simply because of my number 1 in this list, which we'll get to after this. But anyway, so yeah, this is basically the vintage He-Man with added articulation. And next to him, I wanted some G.I. Joe representation. And so luckily, I came across this guy. I was scouring eBay for a vintage Duke, but I figured, it doesn't kind of fit the bill of a modern release figure that's kind of like an homage to the original, until I stumbled across this guy, which is a reissue of the O-Ring figure of Duke. He came with a Cobra Commander, but the idea here is he's painted up like the cartoon. So like so it kind of fits the bill, like a modern O-Ring figure of Duke. And so these two together are just overflowing with pure nostalgia that fills the soul. Sorry for sounding poetic, but I mean, really, this He-Man and this Duke. And what could be more perfect than having a He-Man and a G.I. Joe? Well, that will lead us to my number 1 toy of 2024. But before we get into that, let's have a proper send-off for these guys. So number 2 on my list is this Origins He-Man and this reissue of the O-Ring Duke. And finally, number 1, the number 1 toy that I got for 2024, and quite possibly, at this point, probably the number 1 toy in my collection. And that would be Transformers Missing Link Optimus Prime. So yeah, funny, when I first saw an ad of this guy, it didn't really hit me of what they were doing. I thought it was just another reissue from Takara, but taking off from what Mattel started with their He-Man's origin line, the Missing Link line from Takara is your vintage Transformers from the 80s with added articulation. So when I realized what this actually was, I figured, it wouldn't hurt to pre-order it. I mean, like, I'm not a vintage Transformers collector, but I figured, this one comes with a trailer as well. I figured, once again, would make a great novelty standalone piece in my collection. Not knowing that when I finally received them and I opened them up, just the degree of nostalgia that would come pouring out of this guy. I was completely blown away. It, not to sound overly dramatic, but it awakened feelings in me that I never thought I had for a toy. This was just my childhood rushing back, and I'm sure a lot of you guys who handled him can relate. So yeah, the moment I opened them up, I fiddled around with him and I realized, man, this toy is such a labor of love. It's such a well done toy. Every single detail. The articulation is just icing on the cake. Little things like, those design elements on his arms and on his knees, which in the original toy were basically stickers. They're lovingly carved out here. It just really took me back at how amazingly well done this toy is. And now I'm all in. I'm just all in. Missing Link will probably not be a very prolific line in the sense that, well, this guy came out at the start of the year. At the end of the year, we got Bumblebee and Cliff Jumper. And sometime in the middle of this year, we'll get Sunstreaker, who's my favorite Transformer. So I really can't wait for that. But this Prime is where it's at, right? It's a toy I never thought I needed. And every time, I swear, every time I look at it, I'm just blown away. It brings back so many childhood memories, and it's just fantastic. So having this in my collection basically got me to go all in on Missing Missing Link. But aside from that, like I said, it made me get a couple more figures, which I've already shown. So yeah, I mean, I can talk all day and gush all day about this guy, but the moment I had him in hand, I knew that this would be the best toy for 2024. I mean, I really couldn't imagine anything else topping it. And to be honest, I'm not sure if anything else can top it in my collection at this point. So yeah, Missing Link Optimus Prime, my #1 toy for 2024. And so there you have it, my top 10 toys of 2024. And on the top are these three guys: Missing Link Optimus Prime, Origins He-Man, and my reissue of Duke. And together, they represent pretty much my love for this hobby and the toys. So I may not have gotten as many toys as I did compared to previous years, but you know what they say, quality over quantity. And I think moving forward, that's pretty much what's going to dictate what I get in future years. So that being said, that's my top 10 list. Thanks for watching. And not just this video, but thank you for watching all my previous videos. If you didn't know, 2024 was pretty much like a breakout year for the channel. And I can't thank all of you enough for all the views and all the comments and all the likes and all the subs. It's been amazing. It's been so fun getting to know so many of you and interacting with everyone. And I hope we can push this forward and continue the momentum into the new year. So once again, thanks for watching, and I hope you come back for more.